Imagine, like, making $10 million. Securing that promotion you've dreamed about for a decade.
Right, getting that ultimate industry recognition.
Yeah, exactly. But then you realize your first instinct isn't joy. It's absolute crushing dread.
Which is such a terrifying thought, honestly.
Oh, totally. And welcome to today's deep dive, where we're looking at exactly that, why the world's most successful people are often, frankly, the most miserable.
Yeah, and more importantly, the specific biological tools required to fix that internal disconnect.
Right. So we're looking at some excerpts today from a program and book titled Be a Hero, Decode Your Greatness.
It's a fascinating text.
It really is. We have a stack of material here zooming in on what the author calls Hero Principles 3, 4, and 5. But our mission today for you, the listener, is to really dissect that fourth principle.
Which is all about mastering what the text calls the virtue of fulfillment.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this because I am so excited to flip the traditional hustle culture narrative on its head.
I mean, we're always taught to just blindly chase success, right?
Exactly. Grind it out, get the money, get the status. But this text starts with this really stark warning about the emptiness of achieving those goals without the right mindset.
And what's fascinating here is that the source treats fulfillment not as some, happy accident of success.
Right, like it's not just a byproduct.
Exactly. It treats it as a deliberate, entirely distinct skill, one that requires active mastery.
So it separates the mechanics of achieving a goal from the capacity to actually enjoy it once you have it.
Yes. The argument is that if you don't master this specific virtue of fulfillment, genuine happiness is just going to permanently remain elusive.
No matter what you conquer in the external world.
Yep, no matter what.
Okay, so if we're going to look at the solutions this Be a Hero text offers, we really have to deeply understand the trap first.
We do. And the text points out a very stark reality here. Achieving success does not automatically ensure lasting fulfillment.
And the author backs this up by looking at the highest echelons of society. I mean, we're talking about the absolute wealthiest people in the world.
Profoundly successful athletes, top executives.
People who have basically won the game of life, right? But they still struggle with massive unhappiness and just this deep, chronic discontent.
Well, the assumption we naturally make is that a person's internal landscape is going to match their external achievements.
Right, like if you have $1 billion and a mega yacht, you must be super chill inside.
Exactly. Our brains assume their internal state is equally wealthy and calm, but the text is very clear that the brain's reward centers they don't work that way.
Oh, because of dopamine, right.
Yes, exactly. Achieving a goal releases a huge spike of dopamine, but dopamine is a molecule of anticipation and pursuit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not a molecule of long-term contentment. So once the goal is hit, the dopamine just drops.
So if you haven't built a separate, psychological framework for fulfillment, you're just left with a neurochemical crash?
You're just crashing, yeah.
That makes me think of, it's like spending years exhausted climbing this massive, treacherous mountain, and you finally reach the peak only to realize, oh, wait, I climbed the completely wrong mountain.
That is a perfect analogy. It's the ultimate empty victory.
Right. It's like having a top-tier, Olympic-level physique, but a completely compromised immune system.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like on the outside, you look absolutely unbeatable. Everyone wants to be you. But internally, your system is it's vulnerable to the slightest disruption.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. You have the external architecture of success, but none of the internal resilience of fulfillment.
So your compass isn't calibrated, the destination isn't going to bring you joy anyway.
Exactly. And to drive this point home, the author features a very direct quote on page 36 of our material. It's from Tony Robbins.
Oh yeah, the life coach and author.
Right. And he says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
The ultimate failure. Man, that carries so much weight. And the text references his 2016 YouTube video too, right? How to live an extraordinary life.
It does. And if Tony Robbins is right, if winning the game still leaves you miserable, it really forces us to look at the other side of the coin.
Right. If fulfillment isn't just a byproduct of wealth or status, what actually creates it?
Well, the text explicitly defines fulfillment as an art.
An art, not a science.
Right, an art. Because unlike the mechanics of business or, the rules of a sport, fulfillment is completely unique and different for everyone. There's no universal blueprint you can just copy and paste from someone else. The inputs that make you feel fulfilled might do absolutely nothing for me.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the author asks a really fundamental question to get the reader thinking about this. They ask, what actually cultivates an invincible spirit at the end of the day?
Okay.
Is it strength? Is it endurance? Intelligence? Courage?
Okay, wait, I have to challenge the text framing there for a second.
Go for it.
Because society constantly tells us that those specific traits, strength, endurance, intelligence, courage, that those are the absolute pinnacle of an invincible spirit.
Hustle culture 101.
Exactly. Hustle culture dictates that if you're just strong enough to endure the pain and smart enough to navigate the obstacles, you're unbreakable. You just grind it out.
Yeah, just push through.
So if the text is implying that these 4 baseline traits aren't the pivotal factor, what are we missing? Like, what actually happens when you rely solely on endurance?
Well, let's look at the psychology of that. The text acknowledges that, yes, you absolutely need intelligence and strength to achieve success.
Right, obviously.
But the argument is that while those traits give you the ability to push through obstacles, they don't protect your psyche.
Oh.
Yeah. Genuine happiness remains elusive without the virtue of fulfillment. And crucially, without honoring the heart.
Honoring the heart. So it's not just about pushing through. It's about how and why you're pushing through.
Exactly. The text makes this profound point. Endurance without a dignified heart is just suffering.
Endurance without a dignified heart is just suffering. Wow. I mean, if you're listening to this right now on your commute to a job you absolutely hate just to get a paycheck, you are relying entirely on endurance.
And you can endure a terrible environment for 40 years because you have high resilience.
But you'll be miserable. You haven't forged an invincible character. You've just built up a really high tolerance for psychological pain.
Which is a huge distinction.
Yeah.
And building a tolerance for pain eventually leads to burnout because your system just isn't regenerating.
Right. You're just depleting.
Which moves us into the exact moments where true character is actually forged.
Okay. The crucible.
Yes. Having established that baseline endurance isn't enough, the text forces us to look at those moments. Because anyone can carry on when life is smooth.
Sure. When the market is up, your health is great, everybody likes you, it's easy.
Exactly. Doesn't take much to be happy then. But the text bluntly states, and I quote, "Let's face it, life can be a real bitch."
I honestly love that. It's so refreshing to see a self-development text just say it plain like that.
It is, because that's the reality. The author argues that an invincible character is forged when defeat looms large.
When there seems to be absolutely no way out.
Right. When every single fiber of your being believes it's over, that is the crucible.
Because that's the moment where your baseline endurance fails you. The obstacle is just too big to just grind through.
And it's in that specific terrifying moment that the text introduces this concept of the tiny voice within your heart.
Okay, tell me about that.
It says that when your core essence is tested to that extreme degree, it's that tiny voice that dictates whether you will do one of 3 things.
Which are?
You will either soar, stall, or surge back.
Soar, stall, or surge back. And wait, the author includes a specific footnote attached to that exact phrase, don't they?
They do. It leads to a 2016 YouTube video by Brave titled "The Fight, Flight, Freeze Response."
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the poetic language of the text and lay over the biology of that footnote, the mapping is incredibly precise.
Oh, it completely is. That footnote is the key to moving out of poetic metaphor and into real neurology.
Right, so the text says you either soar, stall, or surge back. Biologically, stalling is the freeze response.
Yep. Your nervous system is so overwhelmed that your amygdala basically paralyzes you.
Exactly. And soaring implies escaping the danger, getting above it, which perfectly maps to the flight response.
And surging back is clearly the fight response. You meet the resistance head on.
It's brilliant. The author is taking these deeply primal biological survival instincts that happen in our brainstem and overlaying them with high-level personal growth.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains the whole point of that tiny voice.
How so?
Well, the fight, flight, or freeze response is generated in the oldest part of the brain, the amygdala. It's automatic. It bypasses your rational thought completely.
Right. You're not logically deciding to panic.
Exactly. So the text is essentially saying that the true test of a hero, which is the framing of this entire book, remember, is the ability to regulate those raw, primal instincts during life's most critical moments.
So when your body is screaming at you to freeze because life is being a real bitch, how do you override the brainstem?
According to the text, you don't override it with brute strength. Brute strength is a cognitive output, and your cognitive brain is currently offline.
Right, you're in full panic mode.
So you override it by relying on that tiny voice within your heart, which represents a deeply ingrained, pre-established internal alignment.
Okay, but practically speaking, if I'm in full amygdala hijack, how do I actually access that alignment?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, like it's one thing to say, listen to your heart when you're terrified, but it's another thing entirely to actually do it when your nervous system is literally on fire.
Yeah, it sounds good on paper, but you need tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the source has to transition into providing actual mechanisms here, right? What are the tools to help the reader survive these critical moments?
Well, the first major tool introduced is what the text calls the Oath of Heroes.
The Oath of Heroes.
Yeah. It's described as a solemn process, specifically designed to honor the heart and assist you during those exact critical moments we just talked about.
So it's a preemptive strike.
Exactly. It's framed as the initial step toward mastering fulfillment and mastering your emotions.
Okay, so from a psychological standpoint, an oath basically acts as an implementation intention.
Yes. You're making a pre-commitment.
Right. You take the oath when you're calm, when your prefrontal cortex is fully engaged, so that when the crucible hits and that freeze response kicks in, you have a hardwired neural pathway to anchor you.
You don't have to think. You just fall back on the oath.
That's so smart.
It is. And to deepen that anchor, the text notes that the Oath of Heroes also includes a powerful priming gratification meditation.
Priming gratification meditation, that's a mouthful.
It is, but the aim of this meditation is to genuinely commence your hero's transformation by dignifying your heart.
Again, returning to that internal state rather than just the external achievement.
Always back to the internal state.
So let's look at the mechanics of that meditation. What does a gratification meditation actually do in the context of the freeze response?
Well, think about what gratitude does to the brain.
Right. If it involves active gratitude, neurologically speaking, practicing gratitude forces the brain out of the fear-based amygdala.
Exactly. It pulls blood flow right back to the prefrontal cortex.
So you're literally chemically interrupting the panic spiral.
You're using a practiced psychological tool to force a physiological shift. It's very practical.
I love that.
And there's a mathematical promise tied to all of this in the text, which highlights how small these shifts can actually be.
Oh.
Yeah, the author states that making just a 1-degree shift today will place you in an entirely new destination in 6 months or 6 years.
Oh, wow. A 1-degree shift. That reminds me of an airplane analogy.
So the navigation one?
Yeah. If an airplane leaves New York for Los Angeles, but the nose is pointed just 1 degree off course, it doesn't just miss the runway by a little bit.
And it ends up in the ocean.
Or a completely different country. That 1 degree compounds over time. But wait, how exactly do things like a meditation or an oath keep you on that trajectory over a period of 6 years?
Well, the text uses a really great metaphor about spacecrafts to explain this.
Spacecrafts?
Yeah, it brings all these concepts, success, fulfillment, the crucible, the tools, all together. The author explains that the principles shared in the text work together like the rockets of a spacecraft.
Okay, I'm with you.
You need each one firing properly. And you need them firing not just to propel yourself toward your goals, but to steer clear of being stranded in orbit or, crashing into obstacles.
Okay, so if the rockets represent the ambition, the thrust, I'm assuming oath is the navigation system.
Exactly.
Is if you don't have it, you're just generating blind thrust.
Right, let's break down that thrust versus trajectory idea. The rockets represent the raw power of your baseline traits.
Your strength, your endurance, your intelligence.
Exactly. Your drive to achieve success. That is what breaks you out of the atmosphere.
But without the guidance system.
Right. The oath and the meditation act as your internal guidance system. Without dignifying your heart, which is the art of fulfillment, you might have incredible thrust.
You might be the hardest working, most enduring person in your entire industry.
But you have terrible trajectory.
You're burning massive amounts of fuel, enduring incredible G-force, but you aren't actually heading toward a habitable planet.
And that is exactly how you end up highly successful, but utterly unfulfilled.
Wow.
You become that billionaire the text mentioned earlier who is deeply unhappy. You have all the thrust in the world, you beat out all the competition, but your internal compass was off by just 1 degree.
And now you are, how did you put it?
As the text beautifully puts it, stranded in orbit.
Stranded in orbit. Man, that is such a haunting way to describe the ultimate failure of empty success.
You achieve the altitude, but there's no oxygen, no joy, no genuine fulfillment there. You're just floating in a void of your own making.
That really makes you evaluate the vector of your own life,
It really does.
Because we started this journey by recognizing that empty success is just a biological dead end.
Yeah.
We navigated the crucible of our own nervous systems, that primal fight, flight, or freeze response that tries to hijack us when life gets difficult.
And we examine the practical tool.
Right, the oaths and the gratitude meditations designed to chemically and psychologically recalibrate our trajectories by that crucial 1 degree.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? As you go about your week, utilizing your strength and your endurance to tackle your goals, you really have to ask yourself, when your core essence is tested, are your rockets firing in a way that brings both achievement and joy?
Or are you just generating blind thrust, hoping you don't end up stranded in orbit? But, this raises an important question for you to consider. Yeah, one that stems from a really fascinating tension in the material we just covered.
Let's hear it.
Well, the text heavily emphasizes using a standardized Oath of Heroes and a specific priming gratification meditation to dignify the heart.
Right, the tools.
But earlier, it also explicitly stated that fulfillment is an art because it is completely unique and different for every single person.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going with this.
Right. So can a formalized universal oath truly capture your specific, highly individual masterpiece of fulfillment? Or is it merely the blank canvas you're meant to paint your own rules onto?
Oh, that is the perfect paradox to leave you with. Really something to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep checking your trajectory, ensure your internal compass is tuned, and we will catch you next time.